Hello, this is the tutorial for my Ender 3 V2 writing attachment. And you may be thinking that other similar things like this exist already, and you're right, but this one requires no extra installation. Now what that means is you can attach it to your 3D printer without disassembling the hot end and without screwing anything in. It just snaps right on and snaps right off. Now even though it could go on and off with such ease, it does not sacrifice any stability or any strength. It works perfectly well. So let's get into how to print it. You want to print it in this orientation. And you want this piece on the bottom as well as the notch. Now you can print the layer lines with a height of however you want, really, and you probably don't need any raft or brim, although you might want supports because of this notch and these protrusions. Now it could work with a pen, a pencil, a marker, or really anything approximately this size. Now to start, you want to take a rubber band. It could be an old rubber band, it could be a falling apart rubber band. It doesn't need to be connected, it just has to be long. Now the first step is going to be to wrap the tip of the pen with the rubber band. This is going to create friction, so when you place it in the holder, it can stay. Now once it's like that, then you want to wrap it up along the holder on both sides, both the front and on the back, and then you want to tuck in the excess bit into another piece of the rubber band, just like that. Now when you put it on the mechanism, the tip should be out, and you want to line up the bolt with the notch, and it should just be able to snap right on like that. Now to set up the paper, you want to take the clips out. You want to flip your glass plate upside down so the smooth glass is on top like that. And then you want to take a piece of paper and you want to take mini binder clips and you want to clip the paper to the build plate. Now I would caution against putting any clips on this edge because it might hit this pillar. It should look like this. Now, you're going to want to home the device and you're going to want to write down two numbers. The first number being the Z value when the tip hits the paper, right here. Here's mine. And then you want the X value when the tip is lined up with the edge of the build plate. Now, you're going to have two options. The first is for writing and the second is for drawing. Here's the writing. You want to look up 3D Writer, and it's the one that's 3dwriter.io. This one works very well for any text that you may want to write. Next, you want to go to Hardware Setup. This is where you want to plug in some of the numbers that you just measured. So the bed, you want to change to 220 millimeters by 220 millimeters. That is the size of the Ender 3 V2 bed. Your pen offset, your X should be that X value when the pen was lined up. For me, it was 40. And the Y, anywhere between 0 and 10. You can measure this if you want. It's the same as the X, but for the Y, really this doesn't matter as much because it's not far off. The pen, your down millimeter should be when the pen was touching the paper. So here's mine. And then your up should be whatever your down was plus a couple millimeters. So I'm just going to do 8 for convenience. Your travel speed, you could leave that alone. And your home values, you could leave those alone too. Dry run, you could turn that on if you'd like. It runs it through with the pen up. Advanced, this just adds a few options down here. You could leave that on or leave that off. It doesn't really matter. Now, here is where you plug in your text. So I'm going to find a font. I like this one. And I'm going to write the text that I want to print with my pen or pencil or any medium. And then you could change the size. You could change where it is on the page. You could change the spacing of the letters and the spacing of the lines. And you could also tilt the text if you'd like. Now, you can also add another box of text if you want several boxes of text with different fonts. Here you could pick a different font and you could plug in your text here. And you could do the same things as you did on the first one. So I'm going to change the spacing a little bit because I think the letters are too close. There we go. Now you can click and drag any of these text boxes to set up the page however you want. And of course you can delete a text box if you don't like the way it looks. And if you're happy with this, you want to hit download G-code and you want to print it. Now here is the drawing option if you want to actually draw a picture. So you look up whatever picture you want. I suggest looking up a line drawing, because this is going to give you black and white images that are pretty easy for a pen to draw. You want to find one that you like. I like this cat here, so I'm going to download that, and as you can see, it's a .png file. So I'm going to look up PNG to SVG. You want to do whatever yours is. So say yours is a JPEG, then you want to look up JPEG to SVG converter. I like the online image vectorizer right here. This also lets you do JPEG and stuff like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to scroll down and you're going to drop your file that you just downloaded. That's the picture that you just downloaded, my PNG of the cat. You want to turn the colors down to 1. If there are multiple colors in your file, this will change it to just black and white, and you should be able to print it like that. And you should be able to continue, and it's going to change it into an SVG file. This is very important for the next step. You download your SVG file, and then you look up SVG to STL file. An STL file is an actual 3D file. So you want your SVG, which is a 2D file, to an STL. So you upload your file, and you change the height to 0.2 and convert it to an STL. Here it is. So it takes that the 2D file and extrudes it 0.2 millimeters, so now it has depth to it. And you're going to want to download this file and then open up your slicer of choice. I use Prusa slicer. You then create new presets. So I'm going to do one called Writer, and then I'm going to here are my settings. So you want layer height 0.2, you want your rectilinear bottom fill pattern, you want your skirt and brim both set to 0, as well as your raft, and you want your speed all on 25 millimeters per second. You want all of these extrusion widths set to 0.21 millimeters. You want overlap to be 100% and elephant's foot to be 0. And then temperature, sets everything to 0. And then here, this is maybe the most important, you want lift Z to be 1.5 millimeters or anything higher. Once you have your settings all set and you have your file uploaded, you can scale it however you want, but now currently it is centered on the build plate for a nozzle, but you don't want the nozzle, you want it centered on the pen or pencil or whatever else. So you want to go to your X and you want to add whatever value you measured. Again, mine was 40. You go to your Y and you subtract anywhere between 0 and 10. Again, if you measure it, you can, or it should be good enough if you don't measure it. And you also have to change your Z, because you don't want the pen running into the build plate, because the pen is obviously lower. So for this step, you can't just raise the Z because it doesn't let you do that. You have to add a new part. You right click on the object and you go to add part, and then you go to slab. And once you have your slab down, there it is, then you need to scale the slab to 0. This makes it so it's not going to draw anything, but it's still there in the eyes of the slicer, and this is going to allow you to change your Z. So once that slab is set to 0, then you could change your Z on the object. You want to add whatever that value was that you measured where the pen was touching the paper. There, and you could slice it, and you could see this is how it looks. You're going to get a warning that says this is not printable, but you're not actually printing it, you are drawing it. So of course you can ignore that. You should be able to now export your G-code, set the whole thing up, and it should draw however you want. Pen, pencil, whatever. Experiment with different settings, and hopefully you can get it to how you like.